story. You may not think that you have the wherewithal, that you have the right words, that you have the training or education or degree or know how to do all the things that we do here that are so fine and refined every Sunday morning. You may feel that you're not the one that's called like Peter, James, and John, Isaiah, and Paul. Where does the help come from? Where does your guidance come from? Where do you get the resources to be about that kind of business as apostles, as teachers, as fishers of men and women, and people out on the deep that need to hear what we've got to say, the gospel of Jesus Christ, that saves. There was a valley in a faraway land. At the bottom of the valley, a stream ran through. And there was a village in the valley. And the village was happy. They enjoyed a life in the valley where the crops were good. Life was good. People cared about one another. They had a wonderful school. And they had a wonderful teacher for their children. And this young woman lived on the top of a mountain which was on the western side of the valley. The western side. She was about the business of teaching the children of that village. She would walk down the mountain path each morning during the week, instruct the children. She was involved in the community. She had what she thought was an ordinary life. And yet the children learned, the community grew, life was good. But she always felt like she needed to know something more. Was there life outside of the valley? Did she need to be doing something else? Was she doing enough? And she would go home each evening and go up to her home, prepare a meal for her family, enjoy life with them, and then go to bed, get up in the morning and do the same thing the next day. She lived on a western mountain peak up in the mountain. Each morning when she would get up, she would say her prayers, and she would look across the valley towards the eastern mountain peak. And there was a house on the top of the eastern mountain peak. And at a certain moment when the sun rose in the morning, the house on the eastern mountain peak would come all aglow. And the light would shine forth out of that house. And the windows became golden in radiance. And it stirred her heart. And she looked forward every morning to looking across the valley, wondering what more she could do with her life for the people in the valley, and see that house of the golden windows. And one morning she thought, I've got to find out what they've got over there. I want some of that golden light. Something that will help me be the person I need to be so that I can make life better for the people in the valley. So she got up early one morning, said her prayers, looked across the valley and saw the house of the golden windows on the eastern peak. She set out with her lunch, down the path, through the village, greeted everyone in the village as she passed through, and she started to climb up the eastern mountain and went up the path. She had lunch in the midday, and just about the time she reached the peak of the eastern mountain, the sun was starting to set. She came into the yard, and the family in that house came out. They had never seen her before. They invited her to come in for dinner. And they said to her, "Where do you come from? We've never met you before." And she said, "I come from that house over on the Western Peak, and I've seen your house every morning, and it's always drawn me to it, because you have something here that's wonderful, that's brilliant, that I need to know about in order to do the work that I'm called to do down in the valley." And they said to her, "Oh, we know who you are and where you come from. You come from the house of the golden windows." And they looked over at the house on the western hill where she came from, as the sun was setting and the light was streaming through the windows of her home, a golden light filled with brilliance. And right then she realized that everything she had, everything she needed to do, everything out of her ordinary life, she already had. She had family, she had friends, she had a place to live, she had work to do in her ordinary life, and yet the power was there. The brilliance was in her life just as it was in the life of the house on the eastern hill. And she went back to her life and continued to do what she was doing in her everyday life. Helping others, teaching others, being with others, forgiving others, caring for others, living an ordinary life. And that's what we're called to do. Because we come from a golden windowed house. This place that is brilliant with the gifts that you have to offer, and brilliant with the depth of the deep waters of worship and prayer and guidance that comes from the gospel that is preached and taught and lived here. But we've got to go out now from this place and be out in the deep water and bring others into the boat. And that's the challenge of the gospel today. Peter was first afraid to go fishing with Jesus. But when he heard what he taught, he went and followed him thereafter. And so we ask ourselves today, will we? Would we? Will you go fishing with Jesus in his most holy name? Amen.